and welcome back to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Jamie Agostino. In case you're new to listening to our show, this is where we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Unsure that your credit union is prepared to handle social engineering attacks from bad actors? It's vital. That's why I'm sitting down today with Mike Bechtel, our information security analyst here at Viso Financial, to chat a little bit about social engineering. Mike, welcome back. I'm so glad you were able to join me today.
Thank you. It's been a hot minute since I've been here.
Yes. All right, so let's jump in. What exactly is social engineering and why should credit unions be aware of it?
I like social engineering. It's a bit of a two-edged sword. It can be fun and damaging all at the same time. So social engineering, it's a type of cyber attack that happens. They call it a cyber attack now, but it's a type of attack that happens that relies really heavily on human interaction. It's a more human-based attack, but it is a computer-based attack. The goal of it is to try to trick somebody into breaking their standard security procedures. This is the sort of stuff that you train all your staff on all the time, that, if X happens, then do Y sort of things. And the idea of the social engineers to kind of step into the middle of that and throw some curveball at you, or, put a spanner in the middle of the problem that says, oh, it takes me out of my comfort zone. It takes me out of my normal train of thought and gets you to skip a step in the process. And that step is typically the security step. If you look at it, our basic human nature, especially those of us in the credit union industry, is to want to help others. That's the weakness that the social engineers are preying on.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, Mike. You and I have talked so much about social engineering. I find myself often in situations where, I'm just chit-chatting with somebody that I've never met before, and then all of a sudden I'm like, are they trying to social engineer me? Because they'll ask me something. I'm like, well, that's a little, I don't know,
That's
too
unusual.
cool. It's a little close. And so I find myself, I get panicked a little more than I used to. I'm always worried about, if I'm being social engineered. So what is the most frequently sought information in social engineering?
Oh, it's really kind of situationally dependent. No matter what it is they're after, it's going to boil down to money. Because even though they might not be taking money from you, they're going to take something from you that's valuable that they can get rid of. I mean, this could literally be anything. You could work at an investment company. You might have some insider information that they can get access to. You might work at a company that has trade secrets that, we're going to say like, I don't know, you know how Coca-Cola is made. You've got the recipe. It could even be something as mundane as your mom's mashed potatoes recipe. You've got something and they want it. Once they've determined what it is you have of value to them, they're going to come after it. And the end goal is to take that information and either they can sell it to someone else that it has value to, and then they get a monetary reward, or they sort of sell it back to you. They kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They are going to blackmail you into, hey, I've now got the secret to Coca-Cola, and I'm going to give it to everybody on the internet if you don't write me a check for something with lots of zeros on it. And then that's kind of the exchange. But at the end of the day, they're looking to get paid for their skills at getting you to give up secrets you're not supposed to.
All right. So, what question should I ask myself if I think I'm being socially engineered?
Again, I'm going to say that's kind of situationally dependent. Social engineering is going to happen typically in two formats nowadays. It used to be social engineering kind of predates the idea of the internet and the technology world as a whole. Con artists and grifters. I mean, the folks, you'll see them in television shows and movies and so forth, and they're the smooth talker, the quick change artist, that sort of thing. That then mutated into what you see as the online social engineer now. It's less frequent to catch them in person, but the example you gave earlier is in your mind, you kind of say, well, that's an unusual question. Why would you ask me that? That's kind of one of those things you want to look out for. Online, it's sort of the same thing, but they try to disguise it a little bit better. They're going to look for things like, they're going to pretend to be someone they're not. They have the internet gives them anonymity. They can pretend to be anyone because you can't see them. And in most instances, you can't even hear them. But they're going to pretend to be someone they're not. And the someone they're not is someone who's in a position of power over you. It might be an executive within the company you work for. They may pretend to be one of your members. They could pretend to be the corporate or a regulator, somebody that you would listen to and want to help out. And then that, again, that human desire to want to assist, they're going to prey on it in order to get something out of you you wouldn't normally give up. But there's no real one, like there's no telltale sign. There's lots of little red flags, but the red flags you're going to identify are things that are, they're different per situation, but because each situation you're in during the course of any day in the credit union, it's predictable. You're going to know every time I run a transaction, this is how it works. When I run a wire, this is how it works. Those situations, when you're in that process, let's say it's 4 steps and you get to step 3 and step 3 is not there, that's the red flag. Something's off. That's the sort of thing. I can't tell you to look for somebody with a red clown nose because they're not always going to have a red clown nose, but something's going to be off in your process or your routine. That's the red flag you look for. And then you start digging at that a little more to say, well, why is this step not here? Does it lead to something else? And oftentimes, if you can't put your finger on it, ask the person standing next to you. Hey, look, something doesn't look right about this. Put a second set of eyes on it. You never know what can be found.
Yeah. 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 It would be nice if they all wore red noses. That would make
Oh
it
my
a lot
word.
easier.
Much easier to identify.
All right. So what should a credit union do when their institution becomes a victim to social engineering?
First and foremost, don't beat yourself up about it. Keep in mind that the people who do this are professionals. They are experts at their craft in the same way that we are all experts at our craft. So like what you do in the marketing department, what I do for InfoSec, and what all the people listening do at the credit union, you guys are really good at your jobs. These guys are too. Secondarily, let's break out that incident response manual. Are there specific instructions in there on if this happens, what do I do? Am I to call somebody? Do I need to contact them? Do I close the doors? Do I, that'll be in there. Most of those steps are probably going to include things like there'll be a question. Was there some kind of a loss? Did data get out? Did money get out? And if the answer to either one of those is yes, then you're going to be looking at things like some sort of a regulatory response. You're going to want to tell the NCUA, hey, look, this happened. And nowadays with the new changes that are out there, you get, I think it's 72 hours. Once you've determined something's gone sideways, 72 hours from that moment to tell the NCUA something has gone wrong. You might be contacting law enforcement. You might be contacting a cyber insurance company. Depending upon the severity, you might even be sending out a notification to your membership as to what went out. At a minimum, you're likely going to be telling everyone in the credit union what transpired, if nothing else, as a learning method. And you're probably going to want to tell the board what's going on in case anyone wants to ask them for more details.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like we need to say, this is your friendly reminder to anyone listening to review your incident response manual. Make sure you have these scenarios in there. So, obviously, I'm thinking we need to do that on a routine basis, at least annually.
Yeah. When something goes wrong, you don't want to be reaching for a dusty old tome on the shelf that you hope is somewhat up to date.
All right. So I'm sure you have examples. So can you give me a few credit union social engineer scenarios and the red flags that we should have seen in them?
Well, I'm going to give you a guarded answer on that one. As it happens, tomorrow I'm giving a presentation for the corporate to at a small credit union conference. I'm going to be delivering 4 different stories that transpired. They didn't happen to the corporate, but the corporate was involved in some way. There's a story about a gift card scam that transpired. There's a story about a business email compromise scan involving a wire. There is a story about a piece of scareware that caused someone to call a phone number that they really shouldn't have. Oh golly, and I'm trying to remember the last example, and it's not coming to mind. Oh, a phishing email that kind of never ended. It just went on and on and on and propagated from place to place to place. I go through how the attack happened, what all the red flags were that the staff should have notified or noticed, and then what could the credit, like what were the lessons learned from those errors, and what the credit union can do going forward to try to make things better.
Okay. All right. So I'm thinking social engineering testing. It's important to
Oh
make
yeah.
sure that we're doing with our staff. So Viso Financial, we offer a social engineering testing service. So if a
Mhm.
credit union wanted to utilize the service, what would that process look like for them, and what would be the first step?
Um, First and foremost, I would say if it's something you're interested in, reach out to your account manager. They've got some details. And if the questions that come back and forth between those go beyond the knowledge that the account manager has, there are experts internal to my department that have all of those answers, including all the way up to, hey, I want to see a demo. How does it work? Show me this thing real life. And then we'll get on a call similar to this with me. I'll go through all the steps, all the options. It includes things like, you pick it. Do you want weekly, monthly, quarterly? Phishing tests. What do you want those tests to look like? What sorts of customization do you want put inside of it? Do you want me to send tests that have QR codes in them that you see if your staff are scanning things they shouldn't be? Do you want me to send a random USB to your building that you can chuck in the hallway or leave on a table somewhere to see if someone would randomly pick it up and plug it into their machine? All kinds of options that we can put on the table for
Wow. I didn't realize all of those existed, Mike.
you.
Yeah, and I'm obviously Viso Financial. You test us at least monthly. So uh,
Without giving it the sauce, the
fingers
secret the
crossed.
sauce too
I
much.
keep passing. I keep passing. All right. So what resources are available to help credit unions and their members with social engineering? Are there any outside resources they should be looking at, or anything else?
Beyond the stuff that the corporate has available to you, there's always, I mean, always, just general searches on the internet. There are lots of companies that do, um, I would say what would have taken place if this were 40 years ago and the newspapers were out there, people would write articles about what's happening. Those articles now exist on websites dedicated to whether it just be general security information security, technical or technology-based websites and so forth, that constantly talking about this, about what are the latest trends, what are the new styles of attacks that we're seeing, what are the steps you can take to try to better defend yourself. Beyond that, you could specifically go to CISA.gov, the cyber defense initiative that was set up by the Department of Homeland Security. Oh, golly, I'm trying to remember how many years ago it was. Regardless, if you go to their website, you can sign up for alerts on their website where they'll send information to you ahead of time saying, hey, we see these threats out here. Here's how the threat works. Here's what you can do to protect yourself. So you don't have to go looking for it. The information comes and finds you. I guess depending upon how comfortable you are with technology and whether that's your sort of thing or not, there are dozens and dozens of people who do regular weekly podcasts where they talk about these different styles of attacks, and they give you real world examples where, hey, I got an email the other day and this is how the email went, and these were all the red flags that were in it that you should have identified. And I mean, who knows, if listening to a podcast isn't your sort of thing, check with some of your staff. They might be listening to that sort of thing on the regular basis.
Right.
Use the resources you have in your staff to listen to them and bring all that information back. But the big key is, once you've got that information, don't keep it to yourself. Make sure you're sharing it amongst everyone in the office.
Yeah. Key there. Stay educated on this topic. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
unfortunately in the financial industry, it's prevalent. And we happen to have a lot of information other people want. So
Fin-
we gotta stay aware.
yeah. Financial industry is one of the top 3 targets for not just social engineering, but any sort of cyber attack. Between federal government,
Medical.
healthcare, and
Yeah.
finance, they all sort of rotate between 1, 2, and 3 as the days go on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense.
Mhm.
Well, Mike, is there any other information you'd like to share before we close out today?
Um, I 2 big things I want to harp on is, if you fall victim to this, don't beat yourself up about it. Like I said, the guys that do this, they are professionals at their trade. Their game is to beat you at your own game. So try not to take it too hard when it happens. And it's not a question of if it's going to happen to you, it's when. I mean, statistically, we're all going to fall prey to it at some point. It's just, be as prepared as possible so you can push those statistics off as far as possible. Um, And remember, the corporate's here for you. If you have questions about this sort of thing, Jamie's got my contact information. The rest of my department is available to you as well. We're always willing to talk with you through a situation. The 4 stories I'm going to be sharing tomorrow at the conference, it was because credit unions reached out to us and said, "Hey, we have this thing happening. We're not quite 100% sure what to do with this. Can you give us some advice?" And we kind of walked through the investigation process with them hand in hand, and it all worked out for the best.
All right. Well, Mike, I always enjoy talking with you. So thank you for joining me. And
Mm,
we'll also include resources with this podcast to our social engineering program so that you can take a look at it and see if there's some questions you have or if you'd like to get started with it. So, Mike, thank you. Really appreciate it.
you're
Uh,
very welcome, Jamie.
this episode of Financial Minds Meet the Experts is brought to you by Viso Financial's upcoming webinars and events. Viso Financial is committed to staying connected with our members while also providing a variety of educational opportunities to help them stay informed of current issues and trends affecting the financial industry, in particular credit unions. We have a few events and conferences coming up, including our Summer Tech Con, which is coming up on August 23rd. We also have our 2023 Financial Conference on September 13th through the 15th. And then we have our biggest payments event of the year, the 2023 Payments Conference, which is a virtual event and is scheduled for October 25th through the 26th. In addition to that, we also hold several webinars each quarter, and we also have our quarterly Tech Talk, and the next one is coming up on September 19th. You can register for any of these educational opportunities or learn more information by visiting Viso Financial's website at www.vfccu.org. As always, thanks for listening and make it a great day.
Bye, everyone.